Welcome to Thriving Beyond Borders with Nnamdi. I am your host. I'm looking at a very exciting topic of business growth and expansion for diaspora entrepreneurs. All of us doing business in one way or the other here outside or beyond borders. When we talk about thriving beyond borders, for entrepreneurs in this one, shout out to you, man. You've to I would say shout out to us for just coming out and really daring to, build and start and not give up on those dreams and aspirations, because it's I want to start from there really and just say, for everyone who's built or is building a business as an immigrant, well done. Congratulations. It is not the easiest thing to venture to do. It's not the it's a brave step, especially considering all of the hurdles and things that we have to transition through to, even like how business is done back home and how it's done here in the United States. It's so different. Like culture. I was watching a post on people on Facebook by someone who is trying to expand her business to the United States. Here, she's really successful back home and relocated to US to basically continue in search of growing her business into a global brand. And she was just outlining the things that are different from back home, and how it was just going through the points and listening to her talk. Um, raised so many points for me, because it was like, wow, it is a different experience. It's incredible how just the culture, and way of life and different things affect how we do business, and also, structure, government, all of that. So for anyone who has started from scratch in terms of starting a business, becoming an entrepreneur here in the United States or in any country in the diaspora, I salute you, and I want to say well done. So because it is not an easy thing to accomplish, right? Many of the times we have to start small, and I'm going into my spiel now. A lot of the time we're solopreneurs when we start. We just start a lot of the time too. And I'm talking about just having to grow and expand your business, because one thing I've found with most people who are starting or doing business here is they're not necessarily thinking about it from a, I am building something that's going to be a legacy. That's not normally where we start from. That is not the thought process a lot of the time. A lot of the time is, I need extra money. I need extra source of income. I want, there's things that I have to pay for, and I need another way to make a little bit of money. Okay, I'm good at this. Let me start. And so a lot of people who start businesses here start from a place of survival, which is something, again, it is the weight of the it is the burden of the immigrants, right? That initial starting from the survival mode, exploring. We just want to make it. We just want to have our 10 toes down, not be worried about like stability. That's how most people start. And so it's normally just a one person show, one person business. But at some point, it has to grow beyond that. Now that you've started and you've taken roots and you've started your business, congratulations. Again, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us for even daring to build and start something. Now it's regardless of the kind of, whether it's LLC, sole proprietorship, non-profit, corporation, whatever it is, whatever business structure you have, well done, first of all. Now, but when we talk about growth, it requires, structure, it requires visibility, it requires having the team of the right people. That's how you take it from that one-man show to something that's stable, something that can grow, something that is scalable and even sellable down the road, if that's something that you want to explore. So today we're talking about how to grow and scale as a diaspora entrepreneur, and how we can leverage our global connections, especially back home. Right, these can really become your biggest assets. A lot of the time, we want to abandon. We want to abandon. No, your resources, your connections back home can really be your biggest assets to building a business that is cross-border, transformational. So again, it's the reality for entrepreneurs here in the diaspora. We, like I just emphasized, a lot of the time we start out of necessity, right? And so we start because hey, I got to do something. I have extra bills, I need extra income, and I have things to take care of. And so it's a lot of immigrants born businesses. I can call out of the top of my head 10 people who sell cars. I can, right? It's again, it was survival. Like, okay, I need to start going to the auction and sell cars. A lot of people start hair braiding businesses. Like, okay, let me do hair. I can do hair. And so I can do that. A lot of people who do, who tailor, who do catering, right? These are very prominent type of businesses in our ecosystem, right? Because they are a lot of the time born from a place of just like, I can do this thing, let me start a business. I need the extra income, I need the extra funds. We don't normally come from a place like most people who start, who are not foreign born like us, who are, I guess, native to the US. The way businesses start is different. Like funding comes first. There's some structure comes. You're looking at people start with don't start from ground zero a lot of the time, right? And there's we bootstrap these things a lot, and that's not something that they always do from around here. So we because of how we start, we don't necessarily come from understanding how it works here. We only start a lot of the time, and this is not speaking to everybody, but majority. And I'm speaking with a little bit of confidence because I'm very immersed in the community and our people, and I know a lot of people who have started businesses, and I know the foundation, and I know exactly why most people start. It's hey, the job I do, I need something else to augment, resources or income. Um, so we start. We're not coming from, funding. Some people have, you see families who have that legacy of wealth transfer. So when the kids want to start businesses, there's already trusts established. There's already investments that have been made for a while. And so they start with funding. They start with money. They're able to go collect facilities and leverage connections of their parents and things like that. Again, for immigrants, that is not always the case. Now we need to start reversing these trends for our children. But that's not always the case. We don't start from money, we don't start from funding, we don't start from experience. We don't have networks per se like that. Your network is your tribe, your immediate village people, right? Your church members, your friends, your circle of friends. It's limited access to networks. That pool of investors, that's like, we're not even thinking about investors a lot of the time at the beginning stages. It's a foreign concept. There are still a lot of entrepreneurs within our circle that don't understand how funding works, how all the Series A and Series B and all of that jargons that come with, raising funds and getting partners and getting co-founders and where to do those things from. And it's still not common language. I can speak to that. It's not common language. Again, that's something that we're looking to change at the African American Collective. But those are things, we're not thinking credits. We don't even have I talked about it in one of the previous sessions. We need to establish. This is why we need to become strong. I'm digressing a little bit, but this is why we need to be strong as a community, uh, um, especially economically, and so that we can put infrastructure in place to cater to the disadvantages that we start with. All right. So for a lot of people who are starting out as businesses, they've been working and building credit since they were 16, or for some even for some their parents already started doing it for them, right? When they were infants and putting bills in their names. And so they at 21, 22, they have excellent credit, an excellent credit history. Plus they come with but for somebody who is just coming, who's moved here, came at 27, 28, early 30s, and has lived here for a little bit, just got their papers, and now your credit history is probably it's not going to get you a car loan. You're not going to get a car, talk less of money to start a business. And so we were not able to get access to those initial funding that you need to start the capital. You don't have the networks, and we're not very familiar with the local business culture, right? So these are some of the disadvantages um, that we start with. But we have other advantages, other things that work in our favor, right? Some of our unique advantages, cross-cultural insights. You understand while you're learning the American way and the cultural, just how it works here, you also have an understanding of how a different community, a different country, how business is done for a different community. And so there is our people will naturally do business with our people because of the familiarity, right? And you understand the language and the needs of these people. So you already have in a way you have a multi cultural background. You're starting from a place where there's two markets you can already play with. One you're still learning, but you have to get familiar with. But one you're very immersed in and understand how it works. So that's an advantage, right? You already have trust within your community. I'm hoping you've people already know you're good at this. It's easy to at least sell to your people and let them like you. It's easy to convince them to buy from you because there's that close proximity and there's that understanding, and you know the language. Basically, you know how to sell to them, you know how to speak to their needs, their wants, their priorities. And so you already have that. And what that does for us is this: somehow there's that transnational reach, there's that cross-border reach that we already have. And so we were not just entrepreneurs, we are bridge builders per se, between two worlds. I need you to see yourself in that light as somebody who is building a business here in the US, here in the diaspora. See yourself as somebody who is building a bridge, because that's what we are. That's why I said I'm really proud of us, everyone who has gone out to start a business, to register a business, to build it somewhat and stay consistent. It's an incredibly powerful feat that you have accomplished, because it's not easy. So what are some of the pillars? I'll go through four pillars quickly for business growth. The first one is foundation and structure, right? Foundation and structure. Get your business structured properly. Get all of the legal structure done properly, because it is, again, the law of the land. It is required. So are you an LLC? Your EINs, all of those things, get them documented properly. There are more complex organizational things that, as you get deeper and as you look to start uh, um expanding what you do, the way your business operates, it gets complicated as you get it's let me not say it gets complicated. It gets more involving as your business begins to grow, as you start dealing with certain amounts of revenue, as you start looking to build legacy, maybe start to try to do things like investing under your business. It starts to shift, the type of opportunities and business structure you can leverage. But for the person who is a solopreneur who has just started and trying to start thinking about growth, you want to make sure that now you're not just side hustling it basically and grabbing. It's not just an extra income type exchange the service and get. No, now you want to structure properly so that you can pay taxes. You're making sure you're paying taxes. Make sure you have your LLC. Make sure you have your tax ID, your EIN. Make sure you put accounting in place. Your QuickBooks. There's free platforms out there for doing accounting, so you don't have to use QuickBooks that is paid. There's other options. Heck, when when AI era, I'm sure there's platforms and tools, AI platforms that do this for you haven't explored, as I don't want to speak to that. Business insurance, these are things that we need to have in case you get sued. Somebody slips and falls in your premises. You have to be covered for those type of things. Again, these are things we probably are not thinking about at the beginning. I wasn't thinking about these things when I first started. But as you look to start getting serious, we do a lot of programming under the African American Collective, under Instar Technologies, which is for profits, where I train, people to get into careers in information technology. Um, we have physical locations, and so you want to make sure you're protected. If anything happens to anybody while they are there within the building, rent, you have assets within your space, and so you want to make sure you have insurance. So business insurance is important. Accounting, bookkeeping, those things. There's wave apps. There's other free software, or just if you're good with spreadsheets and Excel, you can start doing that yourself if you're not doing volume, right? But the beautiful thing about using tools is you can connect them to your bank accounts, your credit cards, and everywhere that transactions are happening from. And so it's easier to organize. It's not a hassle, but if you don't have volumes of transactions, maybe you're more service oriented and working with individual clients, and you're not doing too many purchases, you can still keep your books by yourself using Excel. But there has to be some kind of bookkeeping going on. There has to be some kind of accounting that you're doing. You need to be anybody who's going to partner with you, anybody who is going to invest down the road. And yeah, I know you might not be thinking about investors, but you have to build a business that is investable. So even if you're not ever going to sell or bring in partners, there's still a reason why businesses have to be a certain way for investors to consider it. That's the standard you should build your business around. So the accounting, again, tax, your EIN, and then your organization or your business structure. That's always the first part. Get the legal stuff, covered, and then build systems early, right? Build systems early. This is so important. What's your customer journey? Have a CRM. A CRM is a customer relationship management software. It's there's so many of them. I have ones I can recommend that we use. And I'm trying not to recommend them because you're sponsors. I don't want to say something. I'm already giving out free promotion for some organizations. But there's a lot of great platforms, right? We use, again, whatever we use, high level for doing a lot of our back end things at CRM. It's a good end to end tool. There's other ones that I've used before. Honeybook, it's excellent. There's several of them, but have something where you can track customers, you can communicate with your clients, you can send out emails, in mass, and you can do your promotions. It's just important to have a system, like some CRM platform, some way of doing financial tracking, some way of communicating with your clients. If somebody calls your business, you might not be able to answer the phone 24/7, but at least the phone should be answered, right? I don't know if you get what I'm saying. It might not be a real person answering the phone, but there should be a way where everybody who reaches out to your business, at least you're capturing records of that call and making sure follow-ups are happening. Okay, so someone shouldn't just call and then nothing happens, the phone just rings and rings out, right? That is not a good sign of a serious business. You want to make sure that, hey, even if nobody is there to pick up our calls, even if I don't have the resources to hire somebody and I'm not able to always be on the phone, there is still infrastructure in place to ensure that when somebody reaches out, there is going to be someone picking up the call. There's going to be some automated system in place to ensure that all inbound communications are received and adequate follow-ups are happening. Again, we are in 2025. Artificial intelligence has changed the game. There's so many platforms. Again, that's why I recommend certain platforms that you can leverage to whether handle some of the initial customer service things, customer communications. There's even things around people visiting your website and chatting with you. You can build AI agents, you can build bots and have them, train them, equip them with information to at least navigate meaningful conversations and then channel those people's inquiries to the right portals, get their emails, forward their concerns or inquiries to a real person that will follow up with them and give them a call, right? So build systems, think systems, right? Think systems. That's how you give yourself. Don't just, a lot of the time we are focused on the thing that the business does, which is what we started. Like, I'm good at database administration. I'm excellent. I have a lot of experience in tech. And so I started a class. I started training people to be database administrators and helping them get jobs. That's how I started my business, right? And a lot of the time, because that's the mindset, and then you start at this solopreneur, passion is, passion driven, a little bit extra money driven. That's all you focus on. Well, that's the thing the business does. But for the business to work, all these other parts have to be in place. All these other parts or components have to be set up properly, right? If even if you're the best at doing the training, like I explained, let's say for using me as an example, I'm an excellent trainer when it comes to, I feel like I'm the best there is when it comes to teaching concepts around database administration. But if nobody knows who I am, if nobody is able to find my business, all of that ability is a waste, right? So marketing, and then if people know about you when they inquire, how do you take them from cold leads to customer? So your sales process, your closing process, what does that look like? Okay, now again, I'm really good at teaching, but what about the student experience? Right? How do I make sure that information is got to them? How do I communicate with the student? How do I provide support to them? Right? What systems do I have in place to ensure that I can go back and forth and respond to their inquiries promptly? Okay. So again, systems have to be in place. So you can't focus on just the thing. that your, the thing that the product, or no, it's also that part needs to be good. You need to have that one to start doing business. I'm assuming you already have that. But it's all the other components. How do I take payments for people who, people who want my services? How do I track that? How do I receipt that? Make sure that they get receipts. How do I, invoice and then send out receipts? So think through all these systems and do it early. Don't just wait till you get to a certain, start thinking about and having a way. How do I do these things? So I've talked about giving some examples from my own work, right? And then just define your value system clearly, right? What experience do you want to have what do you want people that do business with you? What experience do you want them to have, right? That's, outside of just the thing you do, what exactly is the mission behind that? What is the vision behind? What are you trying to accomplish? What do you want people to leave their encounter with you saying? Right. So that's the foundations that we need to have in place. Know your why. It's super important. Then the next pillar. So the first pillar is the foundation and structure, which I've talked about. The next pillar is visibility and growth, visibility and brand growth. Like I just talked about, how do they find you? How do people know you exist? There are people with terrible products and services, but every day they get new customers because their marketing is impeccable. Right? They know they are everywhere. They found ways to be everywhere. They found ways to be visible. They found ways to be in your face, and they found ways to be top of mind. And so the day you ever have a need for that thing, or the day you decide, I'm tired of saying this, let me just go ahead and try this out, you will not think about their competition because they've been in your face this whole time. Visibility is so critical for business. It is something, if you're going to be in business, you have to, like, again, a lot of the times, this is one of the cultural shifts, mental shifts that it's still happening for me. Because growing up, and my initial thought around business and how it works is, if you do a great job, if you have an excellent product, if the service is quality, people will come, build it, and they will come. And I'm learning now that that's not the way the game is. Again, I've seen people who are not as good in terms of rendering certain services and doing certain things. I'm even in the line of business that I'm in, in the training and, in the career development, career coaching, training space, who don't come close in terms of skill and value and results, but they are raking in income and money because visibility, their brand, right? They built it to a level where people trust it. It's visible enough. People will give them their money because they look and appear a certain way. You have to be intentional about your presence online. People are going to, this is 2025, people are going to look you up. What would they find? If people are looking for the service you offer, would they find you? If I'm interested in, buying cars, is your name going to show up when I go on Google? Right? Visibility. If I'm looking for people who to buy a car or sell cars near me, if you fix cars, you're a mechanic, right? And people have car issues around you, are they able to locate you? Right? So these are the things, being intentional about your online presence, right? Starting from your LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile, your business LinkedIn profile, your personal LinkedIn profile is good as the founder, as the entrepreneur, but the business presence as well. LinkedIn, Instagram, do you have, and again, not just having a page and creating a page, but does the page tell the story of what you do? Does it show testimonials of transformation of people who have, or the quality of your work? Does it tell people you're the best at doing the thing you do? Right? We're talking about, pillars for growth in your business. Visibility is so important. Your brand, everybody has to think about branding. We think about branding as this complex thing. You're a brand, you're building a brand whether you like it or not. If you are not intentional about building your brand, then what will happen is you're leaving things to assumption. You're giving people bits and pieces here, and then they make up their own story about what they think you are. Versus you need to be, if you're intentional about your brand and what people see, right? Now you're telling people what to think about you. You are telling people who you are. You are presenting your business a certain way so that when people think about you, this is what comes to mind. It shouldn't be, don't leave your brand to chance, because whether you like it or not, you are building a brand. you're building a brand, so you want to show up as a serious brand. You want your brand to be, a brand that represents excellence, that represents seriousness, that represents results, and that's when you're sharing testimonials, when you are, sharing content that is helping potential customers, when you are, projecting your, promoting your services. It is with that intention you're teaching people what to think about you, basically, by doing your brand and doing it properly. All right. So you want to be intentional, again, LinkedIn, social media, TikTok, if that's your deal, find the right platforms to start giving expression, or letting your business find expression. Where are your customers? Where are your target audience? And build for that audience, right? Build for those that people. Leverage community partnerships. How are you showing up within the community that you serve? Right, within the communities, that because those are the people who will give you testimonials, that will speak about you, that will be your initial customers. So share your story. Share your story, be intentional, let your story come true. Your immigrant perspective is your credibility. Talk about your journey and what has led you to where you are. Right? Highlight those stories. I know one of the things we do, myself and my wife Stella, the things drove us to start and start technologies, and that's led us to the African American Collective. It's a product of our own journeys, our own experiences, and the things that we had to go through. And it prompted us to say, hey, we want to create infrastructure, we want to put systems in place to ensure that everyone who is ever where we were has the resources to get to where we are now and where we're going, right? Without having to navigate and deal with the things we had to deal with. And so we're taking those lessons and we've built them use that as our driver to create a business with the intention of answering and solving those questions and problems. Now, when I tell you that story, excuse me, when I share that, it makes you can see yourself in that story, right? Because you see, like, man, this person is somebody who has gone through what I've gone through. They've experienced the things that I've experienced. They've gone through and they've swum in this waters the way I am navigating it, and so I can trust them to lead me to the right place, right? You want to be relatable to the person who you are trying to serve, or who you are serving, who you are called to serve. If I put it that way, that's your perspective. That's your credibility. That's your story is your credibility. Tell it, and then build your brand with consistency and with excellence. One of the most difficult things to do is to be consistent, right? Showing up and doing. Sometimes you feel like, okay, do I enjoy this recording and doing these things? It's not the most convenient thing to do, but you have to be consistent. You have to show up like you're prepared for it, because you are trying to give value. Make sure you're preparing, you're delivering with excellence. Consistency and excellence is a must when it comes to building your brand. Consistency and excellence. Don't let anything tarnish that image. If it's like show up and show up well. It is so powerful. It's going to open many doors for you as a business person in terms of you looking to grow. Potential partners, potential customers, they are going to look at your track record. They want to go back and scroll through your feed and see, man, you've been helping people. Man, you've been at this for a while. You've always shown up at this time. That's how you build credibility. That's consistency. Even algorithms on social media reward consistency, right? Predictability, quality. Those things count when you're looking to build your brand and grow. It's super important. Again, these pillars can be their own sessions by itself, and I'm going through them really quickly. Number three is your people. All right, so we started from structure, your foundation and structure, visibility and growth. Now we're talking about people, hiring for growth. Um, it's and you might be thinking, well, it's just me. I'm not thinking about this for now. You know, your growth. I have your growth always hits the ceiling without a team. Growth hits the ceiling without a team. Even if you are a solopreneur, a one-man show, you can't be the marketing person and the salesperson and the accountant and the and the media and all of it. It's too many hats to wear. You can be those things at the beginning, but you will not do them well, right? And that's why we start to leverage systems. And now there's again this era of AI has made it so much more easy because we can get services that help with content that can help with we can there are programs that help you with content that help you with customer service that be your executive assistant that's taking phone calls and returning phone calls and chatting with customers, right? Building your websites and maintaining those things. So there's leverage those AI employees, even if you can't afford real ones. Start from there is what I'll recommend. But don't you have a ceiling if you don't have a team. Like your growth is capped if you're just going to do, because you only have two hands, and sometimes you need way more hands than those two, especially when you're talking about growth, right? My recommendation for somebody who is at the early stages is leverage, virtual assistants and freelancers or part-time staff. And remember the advantage I talked about earlier. One of our advantages as immigrants is we have the connections to across cultures. Labor is cheaper back home. Um, you can pay people market value back home, but it's affordable for you here. So leverage that. Hire from back home. Right? Hire good people from back home. You're doing a service to that economy. You are helping out. You're pouring back into our people, but you're also building your business in turn. Right. So start with virtual assistants. There's a lot of you know, services and companies that do help you with sourcing for and finding and placing, getting you that we have with interviews for you to get virtual assistants. We leverage that a lot. There's freelancers, part-time staff, but make sure you're hire for when you hire. One thing I always, this is important. It's so pay more attention to the person than the skill. Skill can be learned, right? Skill is learned. Sometimes people learn skills based on opportunity they're exposed to. And so if you're exposed to the right opportunity, exposed to the right training, they'll learn the skill, right? But the person themselves, what kind of like, do that value alignment is more important than the skill when it comes to hiring, right? So somebody who feels like, hey, I can work with this person, they have the right work ethic, they have the right mindset about work, and they see the value in what you're trying to do. They see the vision behind your mission, and they are willing to be partners, right? They are willing to work with you to be part of what you are doing. They're excited about the vision and the goals. And again, it might take having multiple conversations to identify this in people, because anybody will say nice things during an interview. Okay, but eventually, if you ask questions deep enough, you will figure that out. I'm not saying don't pay attention to what they are able to do at all. You should, but beyond what their technical abilities are, more importantly, in my opinion, is the person, right? The quality of the person. I have one of my staff who's been with me for the last 5 years, so going on six now, and they've evolved into everything that the organization has needed at every point in time, right? Because of their belief in me, in the vision, in what we're trying to do, right? And so that is an asset. That's someone who is immersed in the vision. And, yes, they have their core responsibility, but I know how it's evolved over time, and they've been adjusted and growing with the company as it grows. So just be intentional about who you bring on and the kind of person you want to have on your team. But hiring is important. Hiring from back home is cost effective. But again, it's that transnational impact that we're talking about. You get to do that. So you can hire, people from marketing, social media managers, video editors, websites, developers, tech supports. All of these can be handled remotely. You know, and then when you hire, train and invest in your first hires, right? They multiply your time and allow you to scale. So invest in training. You might not be able to train them yourself, but purchase the resources to equip them. Right. That's one thing I try to do all the time is I make sure that I'm subscribed to these platforms, and I give my team access to it. Okay, these are the things. Go learn this. Go learn that. When I have conversations with them, I see where their strengths are and where their gaps are, and I try to provide resources to help them, you know, cover those gaps, or maybe where I see them going. Sometimes I'm like, I think I see you, this direction I see you going. I want you to start taking these classes so that you can start preparing for yourself, for that. So you have to be visionary in that way, and see that you're investing in your staff. When you train, when you invest in them, resources like that, you're building loyalty, you're building trust, you're showing them you're invested in, not just you're not just interested in what they can do for you and you paying them, but you are also invested in them as an individual. Because for all you know, they can up and leave, and then all of that wisdom and training, they can take that and go work somewhere else and make some more money, whatever. Right? But you can't think like that. You have to think about them as, I'm pouring into this person, um, because of the value I see and what I see in them. And yes, it's a seed that I'm sowing, but the hope is that it's going to yield returns. And who knows? Let the chips fall where they may, but you do your best to invest in your people. Take good care of your people, and they'll take care of your business for you. I want to kind of emphasize that. And then just balance your team eventually, right? Eventually, as you start growing to certain revenues, you can now start looking to balance your team between local and global, right? That's have the offshore team, the team based in Africa for remote support, and then you have your local team here that's on ground, that's in the office, doing things for you. When you get to that level, that should be the goal. And then pillar number 4 is partnership and expansion. Collaborate. We don't like this is one barrier that we face because we've our culture is a lot of time for most African cultures. It's so competitive. It's so my house is bigger than yours. My car is faster than yours. I live in a nicer area than yours. My children go to more expensive schools than yours. So it's always the in Nigeria will say I pass my neighbor's that approach to things, and it holds us back when I should be collaborating with my neighbor. Saying, "Hey, I can do this, and you can do this. Let's come together and then we make up for the gaps that we have. Collaboration is going to expedite your growth. I always think about this, the Bible verse that says two are better than one. There's one shall chase 1,000 and two shall chase 10,000. That's synergy. That means our impact is multiplied when we come together. The co-founder culture is not something that we have a lot of. It's not something you see a lot in African founders and African businesses. It's not. And I feel like we are missing out on so many great businesses because we want to be solopreneurs. We want to fly solo. We want to be the one that built it. We see that with, I never knew, right? People could friends to come together to start a church. And it's not just one head person, because all of my life back home, it's always been there's the one main guy, and then there's people that are his disciples per se. And eventually, when the disciple gets to a certain level, and they go start their own. Um, but I started seeing that, like, even and I'm using church as an example because even to spiritual things like that, people are were still that mindset of it has to be me, it has to be my when I've seen several religious organizations that it's two, three people, four people that are passionate and together they say, let's start this, and everybody bring in what they can. And there's no contention about main guy, and no, it's they're all together, the founders together, building together. There's so much power in collaboration that we can leverage. So collaborate with others, join business associations, uh, get into chambers, yeah, diaspora collectives like Diaspora Collective, but make sure you are intentionally connected. That leads to expansion. So partner up and grow. Build strategic partnership with businesses and organizations in in your home country, right? And this is something that we are looking to do that we've actually been exploring within the African American Collective is who are who are organizations back home that we can align with, that we can collaborate with, that to help scale our impact. And so that's a powerful thing to be thinking about. Again, there's only how far you can go solo, right? It's partner up, find the right partners and start exploring what that relationship will look like. You know, think global, right? Think global, think global. If you sell digital products, you do import and export, start looking across how can I serve across continents, right? And then start partnering with organizations to make it happen. Start partnering with people who are already doing certain things and you bring in certain things. How can we merge this together and create something exciting, right? So partnerships expedites, you know, growth. And so this is something that I'm telling you, collaboration and hiring cross borders, building systems. I can talk about all of this again just from Enstar Technologies perspective, from the African American Collective, and how far we've come in the time in our 1 year of existence. It's not been because of how we work very hard. Myself, my wife Stella, who is my co-founder in both of these initiatives, we spend an immense amount of time. So this you are going to have to put in time to build something that will last, but we're not where we are in any of the spaces because of how much effort we've put in. It's about the systems, about people, it's about our foundations, right? And you can see even how we're showing up online. We try to be intentional about that. What contents we put out, how we even every of our events at AIM, one thing you will always leave with that everybody comments about is the quality of the experience. Every event we do, the two summits we've done, the women's conference we've done, it's a level of detail goes into it to where it has to be excellent. From PowerPoint slides to speaker communication, to just navigating all of these things, there's a level of intentionality that we follow to deliver excellence because we want you to leave and say, these people are serious minded people. I want to work with them. It's so important and so necessary. So these are things that again we're not there yet. I'm not speaking from a place of somebody who has arrived. I'm very far in my journey. But I know there are people who are still on the come up, who are aspiring immigrants, and who, aspiring immigrants, who are aspiring entrepreneurs, who I want to talk to today and say, hey, you can build something special, but you have to be intentional about it. So question is, do you have systems in place, right? Do an audit. How do people find you? Do you have any partnerships? Um, Start delegating. What things can I take off my plate so I can have more time in my hands to do the thing I love? Explore, diaspora friendly tools, right? You can, if you go on Fiverr, you see a lot of people from different countries. You can narrow the search to your own home country, right? If you're like from Nigeria, like I do, um, now I have, a couple of interns who help with our websites, managing that, all of that. But then I'll go and I'll filter for just Nigeria on Fiverr, and I've hired then freelancers. I've hired freelancers to build our websites from Nigeria, to do landing pages, set up go high level, do those type of things for us. Because I want to, these guys feel excited about working with their people. I'm happy to. This money is going towards somebody back home that is making one life better. Um, so explore those platforms, Fiverr, Upwork, you know, there's so many of them. Even look for referrals within AIM. There are people who do this, right? We have one of our community partners who started the business to match, entrepreneurs with talents from back home, right? So I can connect you to people like that if you are interested. But let's start, exploring these opportunities. Start thinking of your business beyond just a one-man show. Remember, growth is not about doing more; it's about empowering others to help you do better. All right, I'll wrap it up here today. I've gone a bit longer than I planned to go today, but I hope you gained some value out of this. Please, if this has been something that you've gained from when you watch this on YouTube, subscribe. When you see this on LinkedIn, make sure you forward it along, share this with your people, subscribe, join the African American Collective. Next week is going to be another exciting topic, but I want to quickly, before I close, talk about our upcoming event in October, our Advocacy and Policy Conference, October 25th, 10 a.m. at Georgia Tech. We'll be having our first ever Advocacy and Policy Conference. How the laws that are made in the country affect us. Yeah, and I'm not just talking about federal government, at all levels of government, up to school districts and HOAs and all of the things. We need to, one of the things that set us back as immigrants is we're so immersed in survival, we're not paying attention to how things work and how things are done. And that's how we advance by understanding the system. When you understand the game, you can play by the rules, you can win at the game. It's just if you don't know the game you're playing, you can pretty much not win. So you'll always be playing from behind. And the advocacy and policy conference is really targeting, you know, bringing education to our doorsteps, equipping us with resources and tools and knowledge, to help us better understand the infrastructure of policy and advocacy, laws. We're talking on immigration, we're talking about different other things that affect us, just our daily lives. We have a lot of elected officials, we have people who are into advocacy and policy at a very high level who are showing up. The promotion is all over our LinkedIn, on our social media platforms. Please go and register. It's October 25th. If you're in Atlanta, we're going to be in Georgia Tech, but there's also a virtual component. If you are not local and you still want to be a part of this, even if you're not in the US and you want to be a part of this, it's okay, especially if you're aspiring to come here or to move to any country, that there's value, there's valuable insights that you can get. So that's my spiel today. Go ahead and register. Thank you very much again for spending some of the day with me. I do appreciate your time. And I'm excited about what's coming within the African Collective. Please let's keep pushing, let's keep working, let's keep building, let's keep thriving.